Hey guys, good evening. A few people coming on. So obviously to start off, we're just going to pad out a little bit until we get a few people, get the majority of people on, the nucleus, as I like to call it. Obviously, a bit of admin before we start. If you can just let me know whether you can hear me okay. I think you can. Let me know if you can see me okay, if there's any problems there. I've got a little bit of change of how I'm going to do the training tonight, so that people that don't want to necessarily be sat around for a long time listening to me ramble and stuff can literally get the training, and then they can cut away if they want to, or they can hang around for the questions and answers. So it's simple as that. Okay, so as always, if you comment, if you ask questions, I can pull them up onto the screen so everybody can read it, and it makes things a little bit more interactive. So thanks, Claire, for letting me know you can hear me. Someone's saying good evening. I don't know who that is. Underneath the video, I've put a little link. If you can click the link, go to streamyard.com/Facebook. I think it is the link that's in the comment, and just give them permission to access your thing if you're happy to do that. And then I'll be able to see who's posting, see what your name is, and bring your picture up as well. Okay. If not, don't worry about it, but I'll just have to call you Facebook user because I don't know who you are. Eva saying, yeah, we can see and hear and see you. Brilliant. Mika, good evening. Sound and vision. Good. Excellent. Okay. Whilst we're waiting then for people to come on, how's it been today? So day 2 for some of you, day 1, I know for a couple of you. How has it been? Have you experienced any withdrawals? What has your hunger been like? Have you been, looking at the labels, and have you had any surprises or shocks? And start to warm up your questions, because if you want good answers from me, you've got to ask good questions. Okay, so start thinking about your questions as well. Try and refrain from posting your questions until a little bit later on, so they don't get lost in all the comments and everything. There is a dedicated Q&A that we're going to do later on. Donna's saying evening. Good evening, Donna. Hope you're well. Eva's saying, good. So between the good evening and the comment about being able to see you, the StreamYard permission kicks in. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, that's good, Eva. Yeah, it just means I know I'm talking to, I can make my answer a lot more relevant to you. And I think it just makes it a little bit more interactive as well. Okay, we're getting a few people on. What we got here, Alison saying, reading all labels, surprising that horseradish needs sugar. Alison, it is incredible where sugars sneak in. We're doing this fresh start protocol for change. We're on the R today, refined sugar. And when we get to the H, you're going to do a lot more in hidden sugars, because by that time you should have stripped out a load of the real easy stuff to strip out. And then it's about digging into some of the hidden stuff, and it is everywhere, and in incredible amounts. For example, tomato ketchup, right? You sort of think about what's in tomato ketchup, bloody tomatoes, number one ingredient, and then pretty soon afterwards is sugar, just pumped full of sugar. It's incredible where it is. Dora's waving. Hello, Dora. How you doing? What's this? Someone saying evening, not sure who that is. Had a headache and got munchies about 3 p.m. today, but had some dark chocolate, which did the job. Way back 10, 11 years ago, when I first started to get a grip of food and fitness, two of my go-tos were over 85% dark chocolate and the hardest cheese you can get, right? Whatever cheese you like, the hardest cheese. And every time I got the munchies or I wanted a snack or a little pick-me-up or whatever it is, I would just grab a little bit of dark chocolate or a little bit of cheese, and that's the way I'd get through it. Now, I know some people binge on cheese, so if you're one of those kind of people, then obviously ignore this. But it's really hard to binge on dark chocolate, especially when it's really strong. 90% plus. You've got to be a tough cookie to binge on that stuff. So that's definitely a good little strategy to have. Kathy's saying good evening. Hello, Kathy. How you doing? Amanda, good evening, guys. How you doing, Amanda? Eva, only started this morning. So far, so good, apart from feeling a little headachy. I think I might have a cry meltdown in a couple of days' time. I've ordered a couple of the supplements. Yeah, I will talk about the supplements today. I put a load of, I'm trying to drip feed little bits in, but it's hard to know when you're going to need it most. I put the supplements out last night because I knew some people would get hit by the headaches pretty quick. L-glutamine that's on the supplements list, whether it's a powder or a capsule, is just phenomenal for headaches, withdrawals, and sugar cravings and all that kind of stuff. So if you get anything, get that. All right, get yourself some L-glutamine. I've got my own little easy lemonade. I know it looks a bit cloudy, but I think it's the lime juice more than anything else. You know, a couple of these a day, and it really, really does help. In fact, I've just made one for Paula as well. So that's that. With the if you end up getting capsules, one little trick if you get really strong cravings is to break the capsule under your tongue and let it absorb under your tongue. That's a good little way of cracking it. So that's good. All went great, but could do with a glass of wine. All right, Mika. Well, that's for you to find an alternative, maybe a bit of sparkling water or something. I know it's not the same. I get that. But we need to get through these cravings and all that, and then start to reintroduce your wine and all that kind of stuff. So try and find something you can trade it with. Facebook user saying, hello, everybody, and a wavy face. What do I need to do for you to see my name? Yeah, so if you click the link in the comments underneath this video, I posted a comment. Going to be one of the first or second comment. You can go to that link, that website. It's called StreamYard, and give them permission, and then I can see your name. Millie Champ, hello, how you doing? Andy, we're going for like a big long hike tomorrow. It is snowing like mad here. I don't know if it is in Shropshire, in Shrewsbury, but bring your snowshoes tomorrow. Eva, ketchup, been making my own, mostly concentrated tomatoes, some vinegar, smoked paprika. One. Yeah, that sounds lovely. Sounds really good. That's exactly the kind of thing I'd like people to kind of share, because, you know, it's these swaps and trades that we can do with the food that we are perhaps finding hard to give up. And, you know, so that's a good thing to share. El Gluto is one of the ones I ordered, and the Chromium. Yep, good. All good. I know dry fruit is allowed, but how about dates? Dates not great. We're going to talk about exactly this kind of thing in tonight's training, okay? So date is quite a simple carbohydrate because it's a simple sugar, because it's been had a lot of the fluid removed from it as well. It does concentrate that sugar. So, you know, you literally, if you're going to keep them in your diet, then it needs to be 3 or 4 a day, spread out throughout the day. You know, it's not something that you can munch on. They are incredibly what we call glycemic, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and also fructose, you know, and we're really working hard to avoid fructose. So it's not great. Alison, yes, I can see you now. That must have been you that was asking the question before. Sophie, hi everyone. Not yet going cold turkey, but definitely cutting down, starting with no chocolate and alcohol. Good start. Still had a handful of fruit pastels and low sugar, hot chocolate, but did go on a hike today. Next week, start on breads and potatoes. Good work. You know, some people like the idea of tapering it all down and then, you know, just gradually pulling things out. Other people just want to smash through and get through it. Whichever way, it doesn't really matter. Okay, guys. So thanks for all your questions so far and your comments. I'm gonna start getting into the training a little bit tonight. Before I do, just let me tell you how things are going to run, and have a little sip of my tea. Dora, I'm going to talk about this in a couple of seconds. Okay, a few people asked about legumes, pulses, breads, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to talk about that in a bit. Okay, so stick with me. I'll go through it. Right. So this is what tonight's training is going to be. I'm going to talk about refined sugars and what you need to know in as much as how they work in the body. Okay, what happens in the body? I want you to understand what's going on, and perhaps why in the past you've tried diet plans before, and yes, you've lost weight, but you know, ultimately you've fallen off the wagon, and then, you know, you've gone back to eating how you was before, and you've put even more weight on. There's a reason behind that, and I know a lot of you, and including me, have done it in the past. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, using a real simple to understand analogy. Okay, I'm going to do a couple of little doodles on the screen. I'm going to talk about simple versus complex carbohydrates. It's something that pretty much everybody knows about now, but Simple and complex don't really explain the difference. They don't really explain kind of what goes on. All right. So I'm gonna clear that up a little bit. Again, my thinking is if I can improve your understanding of the sugars and the different types of sugar, you're going to start making some better choices. Now, Dora has said there, are we allowed or not? Right. You are allowed to eat whatever you want. Right. And think back to the times when you've done like a calorie restrictive diet and it's all about like, you're not allowed this, you are allowed this, you know, blah, blah, blah. And people say to you, oh, are you allowed this? I want you to start saying, well, I'm allowed whatever I want. I can literally have whatever I fucking want. It's just I choose not to because I understand what this does to my body. The reason why I'm saying this is this not being able to have something, this feeling of what is the word that I'm struggling to think of? When you're not allowed it, like you've been like denied it. We want it more and more. When we say in our head, don't eat cake, okay, in our brains, the way we compute that is we delete the negative because we cannot process a negative. All right. So the not is deleted. So what we're saying to ourselves, eat cake, let me prove that to you. So nobody now think about the floor in their room. You see how you've got to think about the floor in your room to not think about the floor in your room. And it's exactly the same when we say, right, I'm not allowed this, right? We constantly remind ourselves that we want it, You can have whatever you want. It's just you choose not to. And I hope by the end of this training, you will have a better understanding of the choices that you make and why you make them, okay? So I know that's a little bit, it's not black and white, but all this stuff, none of this stuff is black and white. You might get on really well with legumes and pulses. Someone else might have real intestinal problems. You might get on really well with breads. Someone else might have an absolute nightmare with them. Everybody is individual. This is your approach. And the way I explain nutrition on any level is that it's not a switch. You guys don't wake up tomorrow and you're like monks living on virgin olive oil, crushed in the mountains of bloody wherever for the rest of your life. Rarely does it work like that. It's more like a dial that you turn bit by bit, and each day you just make a little bit of an improvement, and all these little improvements add up to some great health and some great eating. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to talk about breads, grains, legumes, like I said, and then we'll finish with a Q&A. Okay, so if you've got questions that are not going to be covered in this training, you can save them for the Q&A. We'll do about 20 minutes Q&A at the end, and if you've got questions that are relevant to what I'm talking about there and then fire them in. Okay, so I hope that kind of understands. I hope that kind of explains what I'm talking about. Okay, let me bring up my supery duperty not face, not my supery duperty face, my supery duperty sketch pad. There we go. Right, I don't know how to get this hide. There we go. Get the comment off the screen. So I'm going to use this little sketch pad a little bit to draw some things out. Hopefully, it will make this training a little bit easier. Right. First thing I want to talk to you about is this idea. Why is this thing not working? Right. Here we go. Right. So we all have this idea that. This is hard to draw, but I'm going to do the best I can. That they want binary. They want ones and they want zeros, okay? And they want good food and they want bad food, okay? And we want to bucket it. We want to pigeonhole this stuff into either good food or bad food. Is it yes or is it no? Please just make it easy for me. We can't do that. We've tried to do that for years and years. Some food programs are still trying to do it, but the problem is it doesn't necessarily work like that. What I want you to imagine with this line here is this is a spectrum, whereas down here we have got the shittest of the shittest sugars. Okay, so I don't know if you want to think out there, but let's imagine it is. Someone give me like a type of food to use an example. Okay, just like a food, you know, I don't want to guess. Whatever, just one type of food, and then we'll try and use that as an example. I suppose cereal. Let's take cereal as an example. Okay, so down here, this is like, I don't know, Cocoa Pops, or something that's absolutely covered in sugar or whatever. Okay, this is really bad stuff down here. Okay, so I'm just going to put like cocoa there. Right, so this is down here. This is absolute dog shit. And then up here, this might be, if we're on about like cereals and stuff, this might be something like cornflakes, right? Now, on this spectrum of cereals, there is a whole host of other cereals that belong along this spectrum, all right, for a few different reasons, which I'm going to come on to in a minute. So here, it might be, I don't know, it might be like, I don't really eat cereals, so I don't really know what I'm freaking talking about. Probably not the best. Do you know what? Let's say cheap porridge, right? Cheap porridge is here. You know them like ready-made porridge pots. God, this is hard to draw in. This is like cheap porridge. Like them little pots of porridge where you just add a little bit of water and it's just really sweet. That's that. All right. Then you might have like Rice Krispies. Might be here. And then over here, you might have like Weetabix. Okay. Now, this is the thing, you see. So what I get in the group is a lot of questions of like, well, why is porridge bad? Right? Porridge isn't bad, and it's not good. I don't know where you are on cleaning out your nutrition. Okay. If you are eating shitty cereal day in, day out, all right, with semi-skimmed or skimmed milk with spoonfuls of sugar on it, or maybe even, some fruit on there or honey or whatever, okay, then porridge is a great next step. Hopefully you'll see that. Please tell me if this is making sense. Okay, then if you're having like really cheap porridge, that's a great first step. But, the next step from that will maybe like just jump onto Rice Krispies with full fat milk. Okay, which will change the effect that it has on the body because, there's obviously much more fat in the milk. There's more protein in it. There's less sugar in what you're actually eating. Okay. And then from there, we can then perhaps go to Weetabix where there's a lot more fiber in there. And the fiber, we don't process fiber as carbohydrates. We just pass it out. Okay, so we deduct the fiber value from the carbohydrate, and that gives us a true indication of what carbs we've got. Okay, and we keep going. We shouldn't really have had cornflakes up here, but hopefully you'll get the idea that there's this spectrum of stuff. Let me delete this, and then I'm just going to check in with a question. I can't see the questions whilst I draw. So if we do another little line, red this time, that's nice. So with this line, any foods, okay? So let's say we've got down here really cheap, crappy, sweet food, all right? And then at the top here, we've got like cabbage or broccoli, okay? Cabbage and broccoli, obviously, immense. This cheap food, absolutely crap. So when we're talking about white bread, white rice, white pasta, pretty shit. And I'll explain why in a bit. If we talk about like wholemeal bread, wholemeal rice, wild rice, wild pasta, nutritionally better, but it still has an effect on insulin and is still glycemic. Can I have it? You can have whatever you want. You can have whatever you want, okay? But if this is a step up from what you're doing right now, go for it. If you're already eating pretty well, why can't you have some like fresh veg, and all that kind of stuff? That would be the best step for you now because you're further down this continuum of sorting out your food, okay? Again, I didn't promise this would be kind of easy to understand, but I did promise it was going to be effective. What we're saying, donut. Check it. I drew a donut. You got food on your brain. Pretty sure onions were on the no list. Is this saw and cut, raw and cooked? Yeah, onions. If I bring up this is really good because I can right, throw foods at me that you're confused about, and I'll put them on this chart, okay? And eventually, when you get to the end of the 30-day sugar-free screen thing, you will be able to do this yourself. Hopefully I'll get the red bar. I quite like the red. It looks a bit clearer. Okay, so give me the food. Onions, right? So if down here we've got really, really what we call glycemic, really simple sugars. And up here we've got really good, like cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and kale and all that kind of stuff up here. All right. Onions, anything that you cook and the dark and like, you know, when you roast an onion, it starts to caramelize. That caramelization is sugars in the vegetables. So onions are actually quite sweet, you know. It's one of those things where you've definitely got to moderate it, because if you can have too many onions, in that it really spikes your insulin levels. Now, the truth is you're never going to really binge on a load of onions, okay? But they are quite glycemic. So if you're, well, hopefully that kind of explains it. What else we got here? Special K advertised as healthy but full of sugar, right? I don't know who that is, but yeah, exactly that. You know, Special K may well be sort of here because it's still a cereal. And let's say you're having it with like semi-skimmed milk, okay? And if we have like semi-skimmed, remember yesterday we spoke about if we remove fat, we've got to replace the taste with something, and it's usually sugar, okay? So they up the sugar. So it means that if you have this as your whole food, right? If you're full fat, you would have, this is just an example, carbohydrates, sugars, fats, okay, and then, you know, protein like this, okay. However, when you have semi-skimmed milk, it's more like this. You've changed the ratio of carbohydrates to fats to proteins, and this changes the effect that it has in the body. Hopefully, again, you get that. And I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, in a real simple way, kind of to understand it. What else we got? Lentils. Okay, lentils actually, like in terms of blood sugar and insulin, not too bad. Okay, you'll get away with lentils. What I would say about lentils, if you eat them, maybe you're vegetarian, vegan, or whatever, or maybe you just like lentils and they're quite easy for you, is ideally to make them much more available to the body, you need to soak them overnight, okay? Because that breaks down some of the protective compounds that are in the lentils, and it will just make it easy for us to digest it, okay? Hopefully kind of doing that. The reason why it's in the no-go thing of your booklet is because the nutrition that we prescribe at Team Bootcamp is predominantly primal or paleo, and lentils are just not included in that, because for a few different reasons, which I don't want to, I mean, I will talk about it, but you know, it's not relevant to sugars. Okay. So that's that. Yeah. If you want lentils, keep them in. All right. And if you get on well with lentils, then that's fine. Someone else saying lentils. There's just many people eat lentils. Like, how many people eat lentils? Well, before I've done this, like, I didn't think anybody ate lentils. Kidney beans, butter beans, chickpeas. Okay, all of which on our scale are probably going to be mid packers here. Same again, you know, where Sophie, are you vegan or vegetarian or something like that? Chickpeas probably a little bit better because they tends to be, you know, a little bit more to them. So, you know, you're around here. However, if you're already eating this kind of stuff, your next nutritional step would be to get onto some cruciferous veg, you know, green leafy veg, something like that. All right. Again, reason why I'm reluctant to get into this is because, you know, there's a big vegan, you know, veganuary and all that kind of stuff, big vegan moment now. And I don't want to get drawn into this, whether we should be eating plants or not, whether we should be eating meat or not. So if you want to include lentils, beans, chickpeas, go for it. Okay. It's simple as that. Almond milk. If we're getting almond milk, nutritionally much better. If we have the sweetened variety, then obviously you're going to be down here. Okay. we want the unsweetened variety, which is a little bit better, and it's up here. Okay. Again, from that, what you would do is you would look at the label, look at the sugar content and the sweetener content, and you'd be able to make a better decision. Okay. But actually, almond milk could be better than cow's milk, which is made up predominantly of lactose. Where that's the sugar that's in milk. And if you think about milk from an animal source, and the role that plays, what does it do? It creates rapid growth in infants. Yeah. So young cows drink cow's milk because they need to grow rapidly. It's a growth serum. Why do we want to drink a growth serum when we're looking to manage weight? It's just, anyway, if you keep it in your diet, you want to keep it in, then that's fine. That's up to you. So with the almond milk, just opt for the unsweetened variety. What do we got here? Avocados. Absolutely kick the backside out of avocados. No problems with them at all. Predominantly fats. Which on our scale, your avocado is going to be up here. Oh, bugger. I deleted my little red line. What an amateur. Right, there's a line. Avocados are up here, right? So go for it. No, just thinking of chilies. Yeah, well, I mean, you can do chilies without the beans, and actually, we tend to layer up flavors, right? Like this. But in layering up flavors and components of a meal, we're actually layering up the calorific content of it. A really good example is, think back, some of you might be too young, but tell me if you remember Neapolitan ice cream. Yeah. Remember Neapolitan ice cream? It was like 3 colors in one tub. Back in the day, it was like black magic. It was like, how the hell have they got 3 colors of ice cream, 3 different flavors in one tub? It was immense, and it was like absolute witchcraft. And your mum would be there going, right, Craig, you've been a good lad today. What color do you want? And I'd be like, well, can I have a bit of all 3? And they're like, of course you can, and they'd scoop out 3 different flavors of ice cream in one scoop. And you were just like, my God, this is just like smashing my idea of the world. But you think about ice cream now, it's absolutely just hacked to bits. Like, you can't get ice cream without hundreds and thousands and Reese's peanut butter cups and little bits of salted caramel in there and bits of fruit. We just layer all these flavors, and that layers all the calories, and it also layers a lot of the glycemic effect of the food. You can have chili without beans and lentils and all that kind of stuff. It's worth playing around with. That's that. Sophie's saying she's thinking. Oh yeah, she's correct herself there. And now I want ice cream. Oh dear, I should have said that. Claire's saying, yep. Is that to the Neapolitan ice cream, Claire? You remember that? Okay, good. We're going to move on. Okay, so I need to understand that spectrum. Right, let me clear my little screen now, and then I'm going to go into this next little part. All right, so I'm going to stick with red. I quite like the red. Right, so I'm going to talk about simple and complex first of all. All right, so whenever we talk about simple and complex, I actually want you to think of fast and slow, because it's a much better description of what's going on. So whenever you see simple carbohydrates, or whenever you think that, I want you to think fast. Okay. Simple doesn't really explain, you know what I mean? Simple just sort of seems all right. Well, it doesn't do a great deal. But when you call them fast, all right, now I get it. We absorb them fast, we use them fast. They're out of our energy system fast, which gives us like dips. Okay. And whenever you see complex, I want you to think slow. Okay. And think of it as a problem. You know what I mean? If you've got a simple problem, you're going to solve it really fast. If you've got a complex problem, you're going to solve it a little bit slower. Okay. Now we want the slow. We want the slow. And the reason for that is when we oh, let me talk about it first of all. So simple carbohydrates, the reason why they're called simple is because they're usually made up either of one molecule or two molecules, hence mono, or disaccharide. Okay, they're really simple, so simple that when we consume them, when we eat them, we have an enzyme in our saliva which can break these little chains really easily, and these molecules of sugar can just go straight into our bloodstream, some even in the throat, right? So they're into our bloodstream and they're cracking about, and because of that we can get a huge spike in blood sugar, a huge spike in energy, a huge spike in dopamine. We get a huge spike in insulin, okay? Just because it just happens so quick, right? Now, these are the kind of sugars that we want to be avoiding. What we want is this more complex stuff, which slows things down, okay? So let me delete this. Malarkey, right? So with the complex stuff, what happens is there's just a lot more molecules and a lot more kind of things going on. This is just like a rough, just as an example. There's just a lot more stuff going on. Some of these are a bit tougher, So when we eat it and then amylase gets around it, it really struggles. Like, you can't really do a great deal with it. Like, it's struggling to break it up, and it's too big to go into the bloodstream. So it has to go down into the blood, into the body, through the digestive system. So you can guess what this is. It's a liver. Into the liver, where the liver messes around with it, processes it, breaks all these chains, okay? Breaks all these chains down. And then we can start to absorb it into our bloodstream, okay? Which it can take like hours, in some cases, So you can see now how it's much slower. And because of that, what happens with our blood thing, let me change if I can change. Oh, I'm getting like an absolute pro on this now. What happens is we get a much steadier increase of blood sugar, we get a steadier increase of insulin, we get a slower drop in insulin. With the fast, it's like this, bang. We've all experienced that absolute whack, rock bottom. Give me food. You're ready to kick the fridge door open, bury your face in bloody whatever's in there. Okay, but if we can hit the complex stuff, then we can slow this insulin down a little bit. Okay. So, or another thing that we can do is if we've got a food which is quite fast. Let me clear this off. You'll remember our scale, and we put porridge here. Yeah, porridge. Okay, I'll leave it as that. I know it looks like porn. I didn't wrote porn. It is porridge. Okay, that was here. Real chitty crap porridge. Now, if you want to eat porridge, you eat porridge, that's fine. But you can make it a little bit better. How? Well, what we want is we want much more complex porridge. So go for the porridge that is, the best quality that your budget will allow. That's a pound sign. All right. So nobody take the mickey out of my pound sign. I'm doing my best here. Okay. So the best quality you can have. What we can also do, instead of having like yogurt or fruit with it, which we're just adding more sugar to it, we can have a few nuts with it, half a dozen almonds or whatever, and we can make it with full fat milk instead of semi-skimmed milk, and all of a sudden we've put it further up because we've changed all the constituents of the meal. Okay, tell me if you kind of get that. So your questions in the future, instead of saying, is this good or bad? If it's something that you want to keep in your diet, then ask me how to improve it. Do I need to improve it? A better question would be, I have a bloody jam sandwich in the morning. How do I make it better? Right? A terrible example, but there's always a way of making it better. All right. Well, let's ditch half the bread, and can we go for a sugar-free bit of jam? You know what I mean? It's a small change, but these little changes and whatever part of the journey you're at really do add up. If it's like, right, well, I'm having egg on toast with some crushed avocado, some avocado smash. How can I make it better? Right, well, let's change. What kind of toast is it? Blah, blah, blah. Let's change it. Let's get rid of the spread. Let's reduce the portion size. There's always a way to make it better, and that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, so again, let me jump onto the things. Claire saying Neapolitan ice cream, yes, it was a real treat. All makes sense. Good, thanks, Amanda. As a type 2 diabetic, pasta is the worst for giving me a sugar spike. Yeah, it is. And one of a good friend of mine lost quite a bit of weight on Slimming World, and he used to turn up with a big, massive box of pasta, and he said, "This is genius. I've never eaten pasta before. You want to get boot campers to eat it?" And I'm like, "No way, because on our thing, like pasta, white pasta is here. It's just that before he was eating all sorts of other shit." And he's losing weight because he's no longer eating this crap. It's not necessarily the pasta. And I'd said to him, what are you going to do when that stops working? And he was like, "Nah, I can't ever see it stop working." And very soon after it did. And he was asking me, how can I improve this? What do I need to do next? Because you've constantly got to be evolving what you're doing. So yeah, I have shredded wheat and milk in the morning. How do I make it better? Good question, Rich. I like it. Top of the class. Shredded wheat, actually really good. Packed full of fiber. It's up there as probably the best cereal that you could have. Okay. Do you have any, just sprinkle any sugar on or anything like that? Let me know. With milk, the only way you're going to make that better is just go for a full fat milk if you can handle it. Some people can't, but one thing you can do with every cereal is just throw in half a dozen almonds. And like I said before, is what we're doing there is we are changing, if this is our shredded wheat with carbs, protein and fats, okay, if for example we are, oh God, this is shocking, let's say it's like that, the quantity, if we can have a full fat milk and we can have half a dozen almonds, we're going to change this. So we've got much more fat and we've got much more protein. You see the ratio now of carbs to protein to fats is much more, is a lot more balanced. It's less carbohydrate to protein and fat. We've changed the ratio of it. So that would be a really good breakfast, in my opinion. So I don't know how many shredded wheat you eat. Doesn't, whatever you eat. Run the program. If you haven't lost the weight you want to lose at the end of the week, then you can adapt it. So basically, have your shredded wheat, improve the quality of the milk, and then throw a few nuts in there, and that's really good. That'll kind of see you through. No sugar, good. Usually skimmed milk. Okay, yeah. So semi-skimmed is going to be marginally better. Full fat milk is going to be much better. Another thing that you can do is if you can reduce the quantity of the milk, then you're going to change the ratio of the sugars to everything else as well. Hopefully that answers your question. Good. Keep the questions coming. What we're doing, how we're doing for time. 40 minutes. 40 minutes. Guys, is that enough for tonight? And I can save a couple of other, like I'm going to talk about insulin and stuff like that, which are probably going to need a decent bit of time to get through. I can save that and do that tomorrow. Is this enough for you to be going on with? And should we just switch to a Q&A now? So let me know and I'll be steered from you. Eva saying I use hardly any milk. Is that any problem? I drink my coffee black and I eat porridge and make it with water. No, that is perfect, Eva. You don't need to be messing around with that at all. Again, milk is one of those things where if you definitely don't start drinking it because you think you need to include it. Ideally, we wouldn't drink any dairy. We wouldn't have any kind of dairy. That's quite hard in modern times, I suppose, because as humans, we don't really process it very well. Actually, an interesting fact is some of us are starting to evolve to have the ability to process dairy. because we've eaten it for so long now. But the majority of us don't actually process it very well. You might think, well, I don't have any problems with the milk, but you don't really know what's happening inside when you're kind of consuming that stuff. So yeah, you don't need to add that. Water with your porridge is fantastic. It's definitely a level up from making your porridge with milk. Again, with porridge, another thing that you can do with porridge is you can just put if you can get like a diet whey, like a protein powder that's really low in sugar and sweetener, you can add a scoop of that, and that can change the makeup of the food as well. Okay, so if you've got something, your porridge, which can be quite glycemic, quite simple, by adding a bit of protein powder and half a dozen nuts, you're making it a much more balanced meal. So Sophie's saying, yes, great. Eva, how do I best deal with wanting something sweet at the end of lunch, dinner, mid-afternoon? Right. First thing, understand that it will change. Okay. You're after however long, we don't really know. Everybody's different. Your taste buds and everything will change. Okay. Remember that. You've just got to see it through long enough. A couple of things that you can do. Let me just do a little two things that Paula does. I've messed this up now. Where am I? Here we go. Right. A couple of things that Paula does, because she has got a massive sweet tooth. Okay. Hartley's jam. Sorry, swearing. Hartley's, let me get a picture of it. Hartley's jelly, right? Here it is. Here's a little picture of it. Let me see if I can share it. Other supermarkets are available. Share screen. Oh no, what have I done? What have I done here? Here we go. So you can get it in most supermarkets. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Little pots of jelly. They're about 75p or 50p. There you go, 50p. You can have that with some full fat, double thickness cream. And that will sort out your sugar cravings. When we look at the ingredients of this, let's go down. Carbohydrates per pot, 0.4 grams. It's absolutely next to nothing, of which is sugars, 0.2 grams. There's barely anything in it. Yes, there are some little bits of crap, and there are some sweeteners and stuff like that in there as well. But and there's some of these two sweeteners there. Okay, a couple of flavorings and stuff. But just to get you through the first week or first couple of days, have a couple of these in the fridge. Try and go for as long as you can without it. But if you have it as a fallback and have it with a bit of full fat, double thickness cream, and that'll see you right. Another thing that you can do is let me take that off now so that you can see me. Another thing that you can do is have blueberries and cream, or blueberries and a thick yogurt or something like that, or even blueberries on their own. Blueberries are actually, they're not as glycemic as a lot of other fruits. It's just sweet. If you can get some that are a little bit bitter, then you're not going to necessarily binge on them too much. And it's just little swaps that you would have, which is far better than an apple crumble and custard or whatever you would have afterwards. Okay, so a little swap there. Another thing that you can do is the easy lemonade, L-glutamine, lime, lemon juice. Just absolutely just smash this stuff. It really will help. Does that answer your question? Let me know. Let me try and bring my sketch pad up again in case I need it. God, here it is. I think. What else we got? All the time for me. What's all the time for you, Sophie? I've forgot if I've obviously said something earlier on. Crack an egg in your porridge. Ta-da! Genius. I like it. But I mean, we laugh about that. We laugh about it. But it's exactly the right kind of thinking, all right? And it's comical, crack an egg in your porridge and all that kind of stuff. But we understand now that to make our porridge better, we need to add protein and some fats. It tells me you understand it. I like it. Eva, that made me chuckle. What made you chuckle? There's obviously something I've said that's made people chuckle. Honestly, sounds disgusting, but absolutely amazing. What? Some new comments coming through. What's your take on plain Greek yogurt, not the reduced fat? Yeah, aim for, if you're going to have Greek yogurt, obviously moderate the portion size. Aim for the full fat one, not the reduced fat. Remember, whenever we see reduced fat, low fat, no added sugar, we need to read added sugar, right? Because the taste has got to come from somewhere, or added sweeteners, in which case, they're going to feck about with us as well. All right. So, that's fine. Again, with our Greek yogurt, somebody just tell me, what could we add to the yogurt to increase the fat content and the protein content? Don't say an egg. All right. We're not allowed to say egg anymore, but just tell me something that you could put in. I'd rather eat reduced fat and add nut butter to a low fat Greek yogurt. I get it. I understand it. I understand, you clearly understand the principles of everything. Why? I don't understand why you want to eat the reduced fat. Because you're still consuming either the extra sugar or the extra sugar or the extra sweetener and the extra calories. So I don't know why. And it's your choice. That's fine. But I just wondered, what is it with reduced fat? Is it, because we've got to be honest with ourselves. 50s and 60s, we were just fed an absolute line of bull about fat being really bad for us, and actually fat has got more use in the human body than any other food group, we need fat. When I talk about the insulin and everything tomorrow, you'll kind of understand a little bit more, because fat has got very, very, very minuscule effect on insulin. Sugar has a massive effect on insulin. It's going to be really important when we talk about it tomorrow. Brilliant, Matt. Yeah, good. Chia Seeds, great. Saying yummy. I don't know if that's sarcasm or not. It doesn't matter. It's a great example. And Chia Seeds actually packed full of fiber as well. Claire saying nuts. Yes, that's a real obvious one. Even toasted nuts. If we toast nuts, same with toast. Toasted bread. When we cook it and we burn off some of the sugars, that's the sugars caramelizing as you toast something. You're actually burning off some of the energy there. Now it's marginal. So don't go eating a bloody ton of bread, a ton of toast, saying, well, I've burnt most of the sugar off. It doesn't work like that. But all I'm saying is, if you can toast your nuts, it's going to taste better, potentially, if you like that kind of thing. So like flaked almonds. Not if it's plain. I keep losing track of this. It's hard when I started looking at labels of peanut butter. Amazing how full of sugar some of them are. May as well eat the jar of Nutella. Yeah, I know. And the other thing as well with peanut butter is a lot of the peanut butter that you will eat is full of what we call hydrogenated fat. So what happens is it's heated or crushed or buggered about with so much that it releases. Oh, it doesn't release them actually, but it's like hydrogen atoms are forced into it, and it just makes it a real crappy, nasty fat, which will make you age faster. It just causes all kinds of free radicals that are just kicking about in your body, causing inflammation in the body, and there's just real nasty stuff. So you want to go for a good organic nut butter that's going to be much better for you. Question. So would you say that adding additional things to your food is better to improve the pie chart quantities, e.g. take the shreddies? If you use 40 grams of shreddies with 150 mils of milk, would adding almonds to 40 grams of shreddies 150 make it better, or you need to substitute? No, it does make it better. Sophie, make sure you're on the call tomorrow. I know what you're coming at there, because you sort of think what you're equating is the quantity of food to a calorie. And therefore, if we've got a greater quantity of food, have we increased the calorie? What I'm going to explain tomorrow is how calories are not completely irrelevant, but they don't function how we have been taught to understand them. So, for example, a calorie works in a test tube in a scientific lab. Okay, but your body's it's not a closed system like that. Your body is completely different, and by changing the makeup, the pie chart, we're changing the messages that's sent in the body. Okay, again, we're going to go in this tomorrow, but we'd have to look at the quantities. 40 grams, it's not a great deal. 150 mils of makes sense. Yeah, I would definitely be adding some nuts to that. Definitely, let's make it a much better pie chart, in my opinion. Still the same amount of sugar. Yes, it is the same amount of sugar, but we have changed the makeup of it. I don't want to get into it now, but what we're getting into the realms of is what we call the glycemic load, right? So we have a glycemic index. So this is the effect that a food has on blood sugar, okay? And we have the glycemic index. You would have seen it on some of the food packaging. But what that doesn't take into account is the amount of food that we eat. So for example, on the glycemic index, right, a potato, I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't exactly know what it is, but I want to paint a picture and understand it. So potato, this is a potato, whether you know it or not. Let's give it an index of 6, right? And we have probably the best carrot that's been drawn today. Yeah, carrot. Now, in its individual form, this would have an index of 8. These aren't true, but an index of 8, because there's much more sugar in a carrot than there is potato, right? But we don't binge on carrots. Nobody has a big plate of carrot and sausage, right? We just don't do it. So its glycemic load would be, let's say, 5. I don't know. Same again. I'm just making these numbers up. They're arbitrary. They don't really matter. They're just painting a picture. However, we will absolutely smash the backside out of, think about like a massive portion of chips, a big portion of mashed potatoes. I once went to my brother-in-law's house and he was having his Sunday roast and he had 3 different types of potatoes. He had mash, he had roast, and he had boiled potatoes all in one plate. We tend to binge much more on this. So therefore, the glycemic load would be a 10. So by having the glycemic index, it doesn't give us a true indication of actually what's going on in the body. Okay. So I'm going to talk about glycemic load a little bit tomorrow. I know some of you might be desperate to hear it now, but we've got to get off at some point. Tell me if that explains, or push your mind at ease that we're going to talk. Yeah, we'll go for 6 again tomorrow. You understand, trying to get at how they all digested together. Thanks. Yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow. I understand that when you eat too much carbs, the body break it down like sugar and store it as fat. So it is better to eat less carbs and more fat and protein. Low fat has a lot. Okay, you've only got half the equation there, Dora. Okay, that's a very simplistic way of understanding it, and that's what we've been taught. However, there's a couple of components in the equation that you've not included. When I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. Okay, so this little bit, low fat has a lot higher carbs in it. Yes, usually. Is it better to eat less carbs and more fat and protein? Yeah, all your snacks should be protein heavy and include fat. All right. So, and if you can do that, that's a massive step in the right direction. So many of our snacks now are just carb based. So many of our meals are, when you think about, you go and have a Big Mac meal from McDonald's, okay, the majority of that meal is sugars. I've heard, whether it's true or not, whether it's a myth or something, I don't know, but the only reason they add gherkin is if they don't, it would have to class it as a dessert because there's that much sugar in it. I don't know whether that's true, but it certainly could be. It really, with the bread, the sauces, with your drink, your fries, it is just packed full of sugar. And a lot of snacks are like that. A lot of snacks are like that. Sophie's saying, perfect, thank you. Good. Right, guys, I'm going to start wrapping up now. If you've got any really burning questions, then stick them in there in the little in the comment box whilst I have a little drink of my lemonade. Yeah, people are starting to drop off, so I'm going to take that as the cue that we've been going a little bit too long. We're coming to an hour. I was hoping to keep this a little bit shorter, but I think it's been beneficial. You tell me. Have you learned stuff? Do you understand more? Hopefully you will have. Hopefully you're not sat there sort of scratching your head too much. But like I said, I need you. We've just been absolutely sold a line, just a load of crap really about this kind of stuff, so I'm just trying to clear that up. So Kathy saying thank you, very interesting as always. Thanks for joining us, Kathy. Thank you very much again. Thanks, Mika. Hope you're good. Thanks, Craig. Bye. Cheers, Claire. Thanks for coming along. Monica, yes, thank you. Amazing. Okay, so like another literal 5-10 seconds, and then we're gonna wrap up. Eva saying thanks. I previously made the mistake of not engaging that much, but we'll make the effort to tune in. Yeah, no worries, Eva. Everybody has got busy lives and things going on. Sometimes it's hard to scratch an hour together to sit and listen to some bloody daft Yorkshireman on the computer. So don't worry about that. Just attend whenever you can, and if we can reduce, like I said right at the start, if we can reduce your sugar intake for the rest of the year marginally, it's going to have an effect. It really is. And maybe this is the first step of much greater things. Donna saying very informative. Good. I'm glad you take stuff from. Amanda saying thanks, Craig. Very interesting. Look forward to learning more tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Yeah. What am I doing this evening? Well, I'm gonna have dinner. Dinner tonight is we've got like chicken and bacon, and asparagus, and then I'm gonna cook some. What's broccoli sprouts in butter, a bit of salt and vinegar and some lemon juice, and then some other veg like carrots and broccoli and that kind of stuff. So a nice meal that I'm going to do as soon as this is finished. Dora, there's a lot of really good films and videos on YouTube on this. Yeah, there is a load, and some really good stuff on Netflix as well. I think it was Liz, mentioned a program the other day, Sweet Truth or something like that. There's just stuff out there. Get curious about this kind of stuff, and you don't have to get mega into the conspiracies and all that kind of stuff, but just getting curious and learning about it can only help. So good. By the way, Dora, if you find these films and videos, stick the link in the group as well for other people. That'd be really good. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap up there. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you 6 o'clock tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye.